Okay, you're all set.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, welcome everybody to our May CTC meeting. So I did end up sending out a revised agenda. We had a couple last minute things trickle in over the weekend, so that's awesome. So we've got a few things to talk about, a couple discussion items this month, and one or two voting items as well. So I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay. Rodney, you got the roll call?
Yes, and we
Okay.
do have a quorum.
Perfect. That's great. Okay. So first action item is just to approve the April 2020 meeting minutes. I believe we got those done. Did we get those done, Rodney? I think we.
I sent them out this morning. Did anyone have any corrections or changes?
It's 2021, not 2020.
Thank you.
How about that? Feels like we lost a year, so.
I will second that motion.
Okay. All in favor? Perfect. Okay. And Pam sent out the treasurer's report. I didn't see anything.
Not much to report. The only expenditure was the $80 we spent for the Green Life Expo awards. Other than that, no income and no other expenses.
Yeah, money well spent, in my opinion. I thought that was great. Man, Sean, you got a good friend there with Silas. That guy, he's super guy.
It was nice to see people at Terrapin.
Yeah, it sure was. And nice energy, beautiful day. It was great.
Yeah, thank you everybody who came out. And thank you, Mary, for always being there, even though you couldn't come out to Terrapin. But Mary was there for both of the filmings, and so of course was Jesse doing the filming. So thank you everyone that helped with that whole Green Life project.
Yeah, well done, everybody. I think that turned out really well. So let's go ahead. Let's see. So we've got a little bit of new business. I guess, Mary, do you want to take this one? Just kind of per our discussion on Friday with the president-elect stuff.
Sorry, they're unmuted. Yes, Joe and I happened to run into each other, and I mentioned to him that Jesse and I had talked a little bit about maybe her taking on the role as president for next year. I think I'm about 2 years out from being able to take that on and all the responsibility that it requires. So we had nominated her back, excuse me. And yeah, I just want to run it by everyone and see. She gets a strong recommendation from me and what we need to do in terms of putting that back up for a vote, or I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, thanks, Mary. Yeah, appreciate you. You know, life gets crazy, and this is not a easy role by any means, so we definitely understand that. I think in terms of maybe the Robert's rules, maybe I'll default to Rodney here. We can definitely note Jesse's recommendation. I know Jesse as a friend and both professionally, and she's you know, she's awesome. She's very organized, and I also feel confident in her ability to do the role well. That said, we may need to open up the floor for discussion, recommendations. Rodney, how does this work?
Thank you for being willing to step into that position, Jesse. As far as procedure, since the council voted to accept Mary as the president-elect, it will need to undo that and accept Jesse as the new president-elect. So
Does that just take a motion? Can somebody motion for that, or is that something more complicated?
we will need to make a motion. I'm trying in my mind trying to decide whether it can be done in one motion or two. I think a complex sentence could probably do it in one motion.
I guess, do we have any discussion on this before we go ahead and make any motion?
Joe, you roll off in December. Is that right? So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And when I talked to Jessie today, of course, as I told her that we had plenty of time, and I know the format of things may be different come January. With most of us being vaccinated, our meetings hopefully will look a little different than they do right now. So that's one consideration. And I just have some things going on with family and work that I'm just trying to be really realistic. And this job does require a good bit of sort of busy work leading up to the meetings, not to mention whatever the requirements are for each of the committees that you serve on and all that. So I think Jesse would be great, but yeah, just to clarify, that would not take effect until January. When I was thinking about it, I was in a bit of a time warp and wondering if, oh my goodness, are we in a July to July fiscal year? I couldn't remember how long Joe had been on. So we have time, and I told Jesse today I may feel a lot differently in December. So anyway, but I'm looking at her. She looks serious.
But can I ask a point of clarification?
You may.
Are you the president-elect now?
Yes.
Technically still. So we wouldn't actually wait, because then we would switch to Jesse being the immediate
Yeah, that's true.
president-elect.
Yeah, that's right. She would take on a different role and be present in the
And
executive.
then in January, she would become president.
That's right. And she
So-
would be in the executive committee now.
Right, so we would need to make sure that that was clear.
That's a
Otherwise,
good
it sounds like you're not gonna give up your president-elect until January.
Right. And I think it would be important for her to make that transition sooner, just so she's up to speed.
Agreed.
Yeah. So that is a reason for me not to wait. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So I did craft the wording for a motion, if you want to hear it. Motion to accept Mary Attaway's withdrawal of the president-elect position, and to accept Jesse McClellan's as the new president-elect.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Do we want to hear anything from Jesse?
Too late, Jesse. Sorry.
Mary is a good friend, and I'm willing to take over for her in a time of need. So I'll do whatever it takes.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question, or maybe it's a comment, that the way I understand it is we have the president-elect for a year so that they can kind of ease into it and see how everything runs. Jesse, do you feel comfortable not having had that year, just jumping into it? I mean, I'm not saying I'm uncomfortable with you doing it, but I would like to hear from you that you're.
I love new challenges. It'll be fine. I think a couple of months to kind of learn the ropes. I think it'll be okay. I mean, from what I
She won't be
understand-
alone. She'll have help.
Right. Yeah. I could, I see Joe and Sean, the two most recent past presidents, on a daily basis, so I can also pull from their knowledge. So I think it'll be okay. I just honestly hope that we are in person by the time that I take office.
That would be nice. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, that's great. And Jesse, we appreciate your willingness to serve on the president-elect position this year, and we'll do everything we can to get you up to speed. Honestly, there's not much
So was
to it.
that vote official? Or do we not vote yet?
I would like to call for an official vote, if we could, please.
Okay.
It got
All
interrupted in the
favor
middle.
of Rodney's motion to accept Jesse as the new president-elect? Okay.
Are you abstaining,
Great.
Jesse? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. So I added a discussion item that was not on the original that was sent out. I apologize for not getting that out sooner. Time constraints, challenges, so forth. But this actually came to me over the weekend, and just kind of thinking about Mary's and my discussion on Friday, and kind of some other things. Just kind of, I had this idea and I wanted to get it out to y'all sooner than later, so we can maybe formulate some discussion on it. But basically, I would like to discuss the possibility of at least getting the committee and work group meetings back to in person. There's a couple of thoughts that went into this. One of them being, I know everybody's wanting to go back to in person, and I think it's going to be really healthy for everybody. Just the energy of everybody meeting in person again would be beneficial. The reason I think the committee work groups is a good starting point for that is because they don't require these same open forum, open invite laws necessarily that the actual CTC meeting requires.
They actually, technically, they do, Joe.
Oh, do they?
And yes, so what needs to occur with that is the meeting place and time needs to be announced in advance, and an agenda needs to be set in advance. The easiest way to do that is to meet at the same time in the same place each month, and then it becomes more systematic.
Okay. So yeah, there is still the sunshine laws. I think we probably get more walk-ups. We probably get a handful of walk-ups each year to our general meetings. In my experience on committees, I've never had somebody just randomly show up to a committee meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I guess the other thing too is it's kind of what Mary alluded to just now too, that has been affecting me is the amount of documentation that's required is it's fairly substantial. It does eat into the work day. It creates long weeks. So I think there's a few things. We have been pushing a very aggressive pace, and I think that having all the committee and work group meetings in a designated block of time has its productive value. We are doing more as a council than I have seen in a number of years with this format. That said, it is an aggressive pace, and I love that we're getting a lot done, but I guess I'll put it up for discussion now. That's kind of my thoughts, but it's, I don't want to use the word excessive, but it is a lot of documentation, and yeah, I'll leave it at that, and just I'd like for everybody at least today to weigh in some regard. I'd like to hear all your opinions today. So, you know, everybody feel free to just chime in.
Hi, I'm Ernie. I, I'm familiar with, from my work past, and I wasn't the Zoom host or the enabler for WebEx, I guess, in this case, but where there could be an in-person meeting with the work group, perhaps, maybe one option. This is back to the meeting format, not the workload. I don't know if that's, are you asking for specific comments on the workload or the meeting format for the work groups?
Just the idea of going to in-person
Okay,
meetings.
Gotcha. They relate. Okay, thank you. So if the work group, the committees met in person, there's a possibility that you could still publicize those as being Zoom or WebEx for the public, and that they would just tune in to the conference room where the meeting is. And it would be for safety purposes, that you would have still the number of people who are vaccinated, and just keep it down to like, under 10 or 6 or 8 or whatever the number is. And there is a safety concern. I would think if someone comes in without a mask, then you have to enforce it, or, gets into a lot of stuff. And it might be simpler to have the public attend digital, online rather than in person, but still attend if they wish. Just a thought. Thank you.
My feeling is that we never did it that way before, so it's not really going back. It's going kind of sideways. Because in the past, we would just have committee meetings at people's houses in the evening and they weren't announced. Often we didn't even really have minutes or anything like that. And so, we're not exactly going back to that. We'll be in person, but for us to have the capability of having Zoom or WebEx or whatever, we probably need to be in a specific spot where we can record it. Some people may have the capability at their house and others not. So it has been convenient to just come and go from these meetings without having to drive anywhere. I will say that. And I guess as long as we still have the Zoom capability, that will continue to be an option. So I think that's fine. I think having to announce everything ahead of time and get it set up is going to cramp some of us a little bit. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. I want to see people in person too. It's just we need to keep in mind we're not exactly going back to what it used to be, because we didn't used to be following the rules. And so if we're going to continue to follow the rules, then that's going to put some limits on what we can do.
Yeah, my comment assumed that was the new rule, but I wasn't here when you were doing it the other way before, so thanks.
I did have one concern about the meeting venue. If it's in a public space, even if we've all been vaccinated, who's used the room the hour before? I used to work in a hospital, so I know about respiratory infections and how they're spread, and that would be my concern, unless we met at 8 in the morning, and I don't think folks want to do that. I'd be much more comfortable at someone's house or in an outdoor venue, and if we could use Zoom.
Was there any updates on Athens-Clarke County's kind of policy on the public meetings and stuff? I know we talked about it last month. We were going to look into that.
What specifically? Like if they're, I know that the mayor and commission is going to move towards public meetings. I think we're taking a hiatus in July, but in late July, I think we're going to come back and do outdoor in-person meetings. I think we can meet outdoors pretty safely. Everybody's cool with that. Just go to a pavilion somewhere, Sandy Creek Park or Bishop Park. That would be fine. But I was
Would those
curious.
have capability for WebEx?
So for WebEx, that's tricky. It has to be someone who has been given access to WebEx through Athens-Clarke County. So to set up the facilitation of a WebEx meeting, it would have to be either myself or Aaron or Russell or somebody who has the WebEx program through the county. So that complicates it slightly. I've talked about this and I haven't gotten complete verification about it. I very much am the messenger in a lot of these. Like there's very specific ways that the county is asking these meetings to be conducted in order to guarantee that the sunshine laws are met. And the county would prefer that the meetings are held on county property. The planning department has been offered as the ongoing option for that. And the large conference room in the planning department could be a possibility, depending on when people decide to meet. In order to conduct the meetings, the committee chairs will need to take the responsibility to submit the agenda and to submit minutes. I can facilitate that pretty easily. I can make sure the agenda gets put on the webpage in the agenda center, so I can help with that for sure. But there are definitely some very good points and thoughts that I've heard people talk about.
Joe, what kind of paperwork are you talking about?
Not paperwork, but just, collecting agendas from everybody, getting that submitted in time for the county, and then following that, compiling minutes from each of the committees and work groups afterwards and getting that submitted to the county. So, yeah, it's just, doing that 2 weeks in a row it's fairly intensive.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Now, the work groups will not require minutes. They can report directly to the tree council, so that can be just set up and talked about through the tree council agenda and recorded in the tree council's minutes.
And the nature center is county property. So if we were at the nature center, the pavilion and they have Wi-Fi in the pavilion because they teach classes there. There's a lot of homeschool stuff that happens there. And for the community input sessions that Office of Sustainability is having, they have a similar issue where it's like open to the community, but it's a WebEx. And what they advertise is that you email for an invitation, Rodney, so that like in part of our listing it on the website, if we say, to attend, email you or whoever would be the facilitator, that's how they handle it, so that the individual has to sort of proactively get the WebEx access permission for that meeting.
So this is Holly, and I haven't been part of these meetings for a very long time, but I have to say that having them be remote is very convenient. As you can see, I'm sitting in my office right now, and I park at a remote parking lot, and so actually, like getting to my car and then getting to the in-person meeting, it's doable. It just adds an extra half hour on to navigating, maybe even longer. But I also understand that, I'd like to get back to in-person, so I get that. But it seems like I've tried recording meetings when there isn't good sound, and when people are listening in a conference room, and people who are listening in typically can't hear unless someone's passing a mic around. And so in my experience, it's been sort of a waste of my time to listen in to, like, if I don't want to join, if I want to join remotely for some reason, and the rest of the committee is in the conference room, I typically can't hear what anyone's saying. And so I think if there's a good mic setup in the conference room and we want to have the WebEx option and meet in person, let's say at the planning department, then I think that would work. But otherwise, I think it could be tricky for people joining in remotely to hear. And I think that would be the case if we were in a pavilion as well. If we're going to offer that option, I think we need to offer it in a way where people can actually hear what.
I've only been on the policy committee for this year as far as the chair of it. So it's only been remote. But compared to other committees where it's like a group thinking and moving forward, I do miss the in-person sort of group think. And as we move forward with the idea, I do miss that in person. It is hard to do that on this format. Basically, you know, I push it forward and it's what I pull out of it, and then it's what I forward. And I feel like it's not quite as collaborative as it naturally is when we get to meet in person. So I do miss that.
In the past, the policy committee has met pretty regularly at the planning department, which seems to work well because you have the ordinances right there and you have access to different audiovisual aids as well.
Rodney, when are the county employees going back to in-person?
I'm not really entirely sure. I think Russell Edwards indicated maybe the end of July. We're not 100% sure. There was some conversation about um, the middle of this month. I just don't know. Our department, our division has been working from the office the entire time, but we have done some things with staggering, you know, when the crews come in and things like that. But I don't know what the county as a whole is going to do. Right now, officially, the county's position is follow CDC guidelines, which if you try to read the CDC guidelines are very complex and often contradictory.
I will say that the planning department has been holding public meetings since maybe May, definitely June of last year. And so we have the camera and the mic set up already in the auditorium, and there's enough space. We've had up to 30 people from the public come to those meetings, and we were able to space them 6 feet apart. So I know it's not ideal, but it is an option.
Could we maybe potentially try that at least for the committee meetings? Since there are fewer numbers for those?
That's what I was thinking to kind of ease into this would be committee meetings would be, you know, either could have the option or we would just switch committee meetings to back in person, and probably keep the CTC general council second Monday meetings virtual, possibly until, like Russell said, late July. And then maybe in July we could talk about our general, like this meeting, going back to in person. But I think maybe a good way to ease into, you know, this would be, you know, the committees not doing that block of time third Monday. And, you know, I think, you know, Aaron brings up a good point there with, you know, the auditorium at the planning department may be a good option since it is equipped with the audiovisual capabilities that we would need for sunshine laws. I guess, you know, perhaps we could discuss just that because we're still in a pandemic, that maybe we can, I don't know, not invite the public to committee meetings in person, just out of a safety concern standpoint, that, you know, we all know each other and there could be a requirement that everyone in attendance has to have had a vaccination. You know, I don't know. This is all kind of new waters for me and for all of us. So yeah, go ahead, Rodney.
So Jesse, the short answer is that absolutely the committees could meet at the planning office. A few things would have to occur for that to happen. They would need to get in on the planning schedule for that conference room. The chairs would need to decide when they're going to conduct their meetings. It would be best by far if those meetings occur at the same time each month and remain at that same place. With the mic there, the chair would need to find a county employee who has WebEx access to start that meeting. So they would have to coordinate with somebody, either myself, like I could certainly start the policy committee meeting. Aaron may be able to start one of the meetings since he works over there. I'm just not really sure. It just depends on when you would meet and what the details are. If you had the WebEx capability, that would cover the sunshine rules. And then members of the public could observe the meeting. And then if they really wanted to attend in person, they could show up. They could show up at the site.
I have a question. Thank you, Rodney. Are the work committees permitted to have brainstorming sessions at homes if that's where the creativity happens or the new ideas come forward and they collaborate effectively? Is that a possibility? Not
Technically, no. The committees are not even supposed to meet by email. It is all supposed to be open to the public. The work groups, since they report directly to the tree council, they are allowed to meet as long as they don't constitute a quorum of the council, and they report directly to the CTC.
So smaller groups of those committees could brainstorm if they're not a quorum of the council, not of the work committee.
If they're a work group, yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah, Ernie. So we have two different classifications of these breakout groups. We have official committees, which is, you know, the three main ones: policy, education, and promotions. So those are official CTC committees, and they need to, you know, stick to the official ACC laws. What we've done is we've come up with work groups, which is kind of, I don't want to call it a workaround, but it's, you know, groups that need more flexibility to be able to react quickly. You know, tree planting groups that need to meet and discuss coordination items that don't necessarily fall on a monthly basis. Those work groups are not bound by any ACC sunshine laws, so they can meet. They're free to meet whenever.
Rodney, I would push back on the interpretation a little bit of our subcommittee groups as far as access, but if we're allowed to even communicate by email. Like, it is true that people are supposed to have access, but that's like freedom of information access. Like, all of that is accessible if people request it. Like, I think, in fact, we are allowed to email back and forth, and we can have conversations at our committee.
I've been told no. I've been told that by the mayor and commissioner's office, and I've been told that by the planning office. So I've asked several times.
Okay. All right.
I guess for now, I really just wanted to get this idea out there, and you know, I think there's some other upcoming discussion items that maybe relate to this a little bit, but so I guess one of the detractors that people leave this council is the kind of the intense time commitment. You know, we get a lot done, and we don't. It's this weird kind of dichotomy here, but kind of an effort to preserve people's patience with the committee, with the council, and kind of not discourage people with a humongous time commitment. This is kind of something I just came up with, and I appreciate everybody's weighing in on it. In the interest of time, I know it's past 4:30 now, so I mean, we can table this in a minute, but I just wanted to kind of introduce the idea. I know a lot of you have been talking about wanting to meet in person, and I've heard some people talk about workload as well. So it's kind of just arose this weekend. But yeah, does anybody have any kind of final thoughts? Yeah, go ahead.
So I guess we're a committee and how does it work? So do we supposed to vote, make motions? Like, could we make a motion start meeting in person and vote on it? And is that how we work or do we talk about it? Or is this something we could just vote on now and move on? Or how's kind of decision making on something like that happen?
It's the standard Robert's rules of, order. I think it's probably too early to make a voting item, make a motion, since this is kind of a new idea and it sounds like we've got some laws and to navigate and some, get everybody on board on the same page before we're able to
As
do
the
that.
as the president-elect, I disagree. I think
What do you
it's
think,
never
Jesse?
too early to vote. I would like to say though that it sounds to me like and correct me if I'm wrong, Rodney, but it sounds to me like what you're saying is it actually would be simpler and easier to have our monthly entire council meeting in person than it would to have the individual committee meetings because of having to have somebody with access to WebEx and yada, yada, yada. So what if instead of starting with the committee meetings, we started with our monthly meetings, trying to hold those in person, and then go from there. And there's not more than 30 of us. I think that we could space and mask, and I think most of us are vaccinated at this point. I think that it would be feasible for all of us to meet safely and open it up to the public, and even still open it up to the public for people to come because there's not that many of us, and still broadcast it over WebEx as well. I think that just because something goes to vote doesn't mean that it will actually even happen. I mean, you guys could vote against it. So I think putting it up to a vote would be reasonable at this point.
But it then is the council meeting in person, not the committees, right? That's the switch, the flip.
Right. Yes, because it sounds like again, Rodney, I mean, speak up, please. But it sounds like what he was saying was it would be really difficult to try to have all the committees meet in person and broadcast it and make sure that somebody's there to do all of that.
So the committees don't have to necessarily broadcast anything. All they have to do is set a place and a time where the public has access to conduct their meeting. So if they conducted their meeting at the planning office at the same time and same place, that's all that would be required. It could be put into the calendar. The tree council certainly could meet in person. It really just depends on what the council wants to do. Any motion, you know, you need to put the wording of the motion together before you make the motion. Anybody can make a motion at any time. So any voting member can make a motion. And in fact, something that's really been going through my mind a lot is I think I need to create a Dropbox folder for everybody that has the commission's handbook that has all these rules, because I think if we all read those rules, it would make a lot more sense to everybody. I also have some other materials I could get out to our new members. The Tree Council handbook, or the handbook that has the history and a lot of other information. So I'll go ahead and set that up, but it's really whatever the council would like to do, and anybody can make a motion.
So I do want to clarify that, Rodney, before when we were talking about the committee's meeting there and having somebody set it up like you or Aaron, that isn't just an optional, so that would just be optional. Like we don't necessarily have to, as long as it's posted that we're having the meeting and the location, and the minutes and the agenda have to be posted. So
That's correct. So if you want WebEx access, you want it to be available on YouTube, then that absolutely has to be set up in advance. And you have to have somebody, and in fact, I don't even know if the planning office would do it separately. I think they're only interested in doing that all together. So in order to have the the committee meetings, WebEx or YouTube available, like that would have to be absolutely coordinated through the county. It was really would be simpler just to announce that they're going back to meeting in person, posting the agendas in advance, and then making sure the minutes are posted. And that would just, then at that point, that would be up to the committee chair. And I could help facilitate that process. So I would be the only person that you would have to go to conduct your meeting, essentially.
And that could be done anywhere on county property, parks, buildings, whatever.
Yes, I would just add that, you know, thinking into the future and season changes, that sort of thing, you know, what's comfortable for people and realistic. But yes, correct. Anywhere that's publicly accessible.
So broadcasting is not necessary.
It is not required.
Thank you.
Well, I think we've definitely got a lot of good opinions out. I hear a lot of good things from everybody. I mean, are you all feeling ready to make a motion on this, or do you want to let it kind of marinate for a little bit and table this, get on with the meeting, and maybe come back to it? What's everybody feeling?
I think my last consideration would be, what time scale are we talking about? Are we talking about June? Are we talking about September? You know, if we can sort of pin down like when we were thinking, then I can figure, you know, it'd be helpful to figure out like, I mean, I think I could vote on something now, but time scale would be the issue. When is it happening?
In June. I'm thinking next month we get on with this. You know, this month, you know, our next block of committee and work group meetings is next Monday. You know, it's probably too late to change that one, but you know, if we
Hey, we
started
don't-
this in June,
We don't normally meet in July, right? So you
That's
could
right.
say August.
we take a
If-
hiatus in July.
I'll make a motion that we start meeting in person in July.
But we don't meet in July usually,
I
so.
mean, I'm sorry, August. That's what I meant to
Way
say.
to listen, Jesse.
I'm listening, I swear.
What about
Um,
June? Is
So you
June
need
too
to
early?
clarify that motion, like
Yeah.
more specific, like are we talking committees or the council as a whole, or?
Does that need to be two separate motions? Or can I combine them into one? Or I guess I should make it two separate so that we can vote on either or both. So first I'll make a motion that we start meeting in person as a whole council starting August of 2021.
I'll second that.
I'm glad I'm not alone.
Do we need to come up with the venue for that? Would it be the same? Could we do the auditorium and have all our invitees just be via WebEx so we don't have random strangers that we don't know?
We could wait to settle that next month, just for time's sake, and vote just to do it, and then the procedure of how to do it can be figured. Is that true?
You know, I'm not surprised this is taking some time and it is an important issue. You know, we're gonna have to address it at some point, so.
Yeah, Rodney, can we vote? That's the idea, and then come up with specifics next meeting?
Yes, we absolutely can. There is a motion on the table. It's more of a general one, but it's for the tree council, the general tree council to start meeting in August of 2021.
In person.
In person, yes, thank you.
Any further discussion before we?
I'm going to have to abstain until I know more of the details. I'm comfortable with an outdoor venue, but indoors, I would not want to know more about it.
So that's the benefit too of having the WebEx. If we had decent microphones, which I think that would be really important that we're able to accommodate people that aren't comfortable with that. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think
Right.
it's just so that you could still, anybody that didn't feel comfortable going in person could still dial in. Is that right? Does everybody agree with that?
Yes, because the information on the virus is going to change by the week. So I
Yeah.
think that's a great idea. Thank you.
So it would always be hybrid. We're not excluding the option for the whole committee, always hybrid, wouldn't exclude the option of somebody tuning in and being in person. It's just allowing for the in-person, which we haven't.
Okay.
That's what I'm understanding, Jesse. Is that what you meant?
Yes, and remember, this is still specifically for the entire group, not for the committees.
So I have a suggestion for an amendment to the motion, Jesse. Motion to start meeting in person as a council beginning August of 2021 and maintain WebEx capability.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Now how does everybody feel about doing committee meetings in person somewhere on county property? I guess with the ability to, I guess it could be either way. It could be with WebEx capability in the auditorium, or you could do them on some other county property with the option for a walk-up.
Can we make that up to the individual committees? Can the individual committees make their own decision? So maybe we can table that until the committee meetings next Monday.
That's a very good point, Jesse. That really should be voted on as a council as a whole. So one thought that I had for that is the council could vote to discontinue its group of committee meetings and leave it up to the committee chairs to navigate the setup of their individual committee meetings.
And
Yeah.
just since it's not mandated that the committee meetings have to be broadcast, you could still meet in person and again have Zoom or by phone. Like I've had in-person meetings outdoors and one person came in by phone, over FaceTime.
You
So,
cannot meet by Zoom. That is not allowed.
or no, for the committee meeting, I mean, not, because it's not one that's broadcast. We would still have we'd still have the agenda and we'd still have the minutes. But just for the committee meeting, someone could be there remotely. I mean,
that makes sense. That
it
would
could
work.
be it could still be hybrid for those as well,
Yes.
but it would not be through the official ACC channel, which isn't required for committee meetings.
Yeah, you're correct about that. That
Okay.
will work.
Okay, so there's still a way for it to continue everyone's level of need of safety, whatever they're comfortable with at that level too.
The important part of that is that minutes are taken and maintained.
I think where this is coming from for me is just easing that workload burden on both the committee chairs, having that mandatory 2 weeks of, creating agendas, creating minutes. So I'm definitely in favor of it,
A really good aspect of the committee chairs doing that work and getting used to doing that work on a regular basis is it will definitely help prepare, for, when they step into the president position.
Hey, Rodney, this is Stacy. I just kind of want to offer just a really quick other perspective, which is sometimes when you have volunteer boards, the workload, you have to keep it in check and in balance. You know what I mean? And so I know for other boards that I sit on, the way that it works and the way that I find the committees to be very productive is that, when it's appropriate, like for instance, when there's an event coming up, that committee they have their meetings, they do what's necessary. Not necessarily a mandated committee meeting every month. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of more like as things come up, you know, in my years with the tree council, we've had, you know, just different things, not just events, but maybe it was things with the school district and the tree ordinance. And then we had things, you know, we had maintenance issues. And so as those things came up, those committees kind of got to work. And I just wonder if thinking about trying to kind of balance it out would maybe not be quite, didn't feel like the workload, you know, not too overwhelming. So it's just something to think about in terms of.
That's a super good point. And a workaround on that is if the committee doesn't really need to meet, they could just post an agenda of no meeting this month.
Yep, that sounds great. And I'd like to say with the website work that Jesse and I were doing, but pre-COVID, we were way more productive when we were able to meet and work on that. It became more of a work session where there wasn't a lot of discussion face to face. And so that feels really awkward on Zoom. Like, okay, anybody can watch us, but we're just going to be like working, you know, or making our social media post or working on this chart. And so that was one reason why, you know, we've had more to do, but I felt like getting together. So for some committees, I think we might have gotten more done in longer face-to-face meetings, but less frequent.
I would agree with that. It's really odd to shift gears from my normal day-to-day work in the middle of a Monday afternoon and then work on tree council stuff for an hour during the promotion committee meeting and then shift back. It makes way more sense for me to do it, you know, after my normal work schedule, or, you know, Mary and I have met on a Sunday before to do it. And it's so much better for us, I think, which is one of the reasons why I'm pushing for in-person.
So is more the question then to not have mandated blocks of committee meetings? Is that more what would make this easier on the committee chairs?
That doesn't work as well in upholding the sunshine rules. And some of what's happening, and I need to refer back to what you were talking about as well, Stacy. Like that handbook hasn't really been implemented yet, but the county is moving in the direction of requiring all council members, committee members to attend this training session. It's based on this handbook. The handbook was created by the legal office to ensure that sunshine laws are upheld. So meeting ad hoc or meeting, you know, basically to do that, then you would need to make sure it gets put on the calendar, and that becomes tedious and difficult in and of itself. So it's really easier just to schedule a monthly meeting. And like I said, then I think the workaround would be to post an agenda that says not meeting this month. No meeting scheduled for this month.
There's a little shift of the responsibility though, Rodney, because like if we all meet in a block, like what Jesse's saying is that kind of makes her work day harder because of that. Because you know, week to week, you know, Jesse and I, we don't know exactly like if Monday's going to be held.
You can meet at whatever time you choose. That's up to the chair.
Yeah, yes, but so if we change that every month, though, you're the one that has to post that and say, you know, so the committee.
I won't do that. I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. That's too much for me.
Yeah, it's too much for you. But so
and it's also too much for the Public Information Office. So what I'm trying to do is streamline this for them and for me and for you all.
Well, what Jesse's saying is we're running up against volunteer board having that particular setup being conducive to them really being able to put themselves into it and honestly to stay for the meeting or to, you know, or to do the work session. So there must be some kind of balance where we can balance out like our volunteer, which we really want to do, you know, we really want to get stuff done and meet all the rules. Like we don't want to not have people know we're doing this.
The volunteer stuff can all happen through the work groups.
That's, well, but like, like if you're promotions committee and that's a real committee and you're going to meet on a Sunday and you get more done, you know, so like, uh, we can't clearly go back to how we were doing it before because that's not going to meet the new guidelines.
Well,
But forcing
that
it
was
into,
never really an accepted practice. It's just
right,
kind
sure.
of what was done. I believe me,
So when,
I've asked for
yeah.
clarification on this a dozen
I think
times.
we should think further on what will be something that can be, because like, so the first go-to as it being a block the Monday after the full council meeting, in this year that we've done that, it seems to be a strain. So I mean, I'm not saying go back to, you know, even though like to something that isn't correct, but this first attempt to come into compliance, I don't think it's fully successful. So let's keep working on like what will be successful, because I know people really want to get to the meat of it. I know that I do. And like, just, we want to get it done, but it seems like within this year that may have been too stressful on the volunteers, you know.
I mean, if you want to meet at your house, I would say go for it. But then I would direct you to the public information office to set that up. And what they would say is, come talk to me. So then we find ourselves right back at square one, right? So, I mean, it's convenient to meet at a house, but it isn't really in accordance to what's required by the sunshine laws. Like, it needs to be publicly accessible. The time can be in the evening, it can be whenever. Whenever you can get the keys to the building type of thing.
I think I think there will be something that is possible for all committees, because it's also like you guys, like Aaron and you, these are long days for you guys. You know, you got there at 8 or whenever, 7:30, whenever you get there, you know. So like we also consider your time as well, you know, in this. But there's got to be a way.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from too. You know, these 2 weeks that we have really slaughter my Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You know, it's a big time commitment, and it's a bit discouraging for people who want to serve and do a small volunteer part, but not make it necessarily like a 20-hour a month commitment. So
another approach could be to schedule the meeting every other month or every 3 months.
yeah, that's an idea.
This thought might feed into that, what Rodney's speaking of now. And Mary gave me this idea when she was talking about, making web revisions or things, or like, writing a grant or proofing it, or like, not every activity of everyone on every work group needs to be public. It's big meetings, right? It's not every task. I mean, I think there might be some, it's almost like we're not asking you if everything we think and do needs to be broadcast. It's really just the meetings, right? Is that accurate, Rodney?
They don't even have to be broadcast. They just need to be publicly,
Right.
accessible, and they
Right.
need to be scheduled and announced in advance. So another possibility could be that one committee meets each month, and you just rotate out like every
Yeah.
3 months, and then each committee has its own work groups in between.
But they can still complete tasks in between too, not like what
Yes.
Mary was. Okay, you're not saying everything that happens is even public. I mean, they do things between meetings.
Yes,
Thank
the thing is that whatever gets brought as a motion, like that process, whatever is discussed, as a committee, the minutes need to be recorded. And then whatever the committee findings are needs to be brought to the tree council. So you are correct, yes.
But having someone make web revisions monthly or weekly can be a motion, and that's agreed to. That made it public. Them doing it isn't a public act. Right?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm a little confused because I thought that we weren't even really supposed to be chatting or emailing outside of about committee business outside of the committee meetings. Is that? So I've gotten a little bit of a mixed.
So the
But then the
business,
work
like
groups are
the
okay.
decisions need to be recorded. The work doesn't have to be, if that makes sense.
Okay, that's good.
And no voting, absolutely no voting until it's our turn at a meeting. Like if we do roll
Yeah.
off, it would be like you would only vote whenever your committee is. Well, most votes are whole council, honestly. The committee just sends things to the council's agenda and then the council decides.
Yeah, I've asked this several times and they still insist that the committees, because they are formal committees, that it's in the bylaws, that minutes have to be taken, but we are allowed to have work groups. So as
I'm
long as you
fine.
have a work group of like 4 or less people, there's no issue with that.
Okay. I'm taking the minutes, I promise you.
I might make a motion to make the promotions committee to a work group. We don't have 4 people.
Well, that can't be done without changing the bylaws of the tree council.
Right, I was gonna say, that's in the bylaws and you can't just.
That
vote
we
to
have a
change that.
promotions committee.
But Mary, I bet you can make work groups, like in the committee, you make work groups for specific projects, and then you have your work
We'll
group.
keep our promotions work group, but we will, committee, we just
Yes.
won't have any regularly scheduled meetings. We'll
It's
just
getting
have.
shady. It's getting shady.
That's good.
Shady tree council.
Okay, I didn't okay, yeah, that's right. So
We might
Hannah,
meet in a back alley somewhere, but we'll get things done.
well, we could have a website work group. A website work group and a social media work group is different than promotions. All right, I'll think about that.
Okay. I think we've maybe exhausted this conversation for today. It kind of comes from a place of selfishness. We're in our busy season at New Urban Forestry. We had a tornado touchdown last week. And then on top of that, I am overwhelmed. So, like Mary, you're watching me go through this and you're like, I don't want to be president. This is crazy, and we lost Joseph Bates, who was a great addition to this council because of time constraints. I don't want to keep losing really, really good, talented people because this is an overwhelming council. I want it to be a manageable and fun experience for people. And so, I think whatever our decision is that we probably should make quickly, I would like to make this less of a burden for everyone involved, because it certainly can be. So I'm going to leave it at that, and maybe we table this discussion until next time. But just so y'all know, I don't want y'all to feel like being on the tree council is this massive engagement that is too much work. That's the last thing I want. I want y'all to enjoy being here. So, I think let's see here. We do have a couple action items coming up. It's 5:05. What do you, Holly? I saw your message there about the presentation. Do y'all want to do the presentation? I think we only have 2 items really. We can cover real quickly. If Holly, do you want to just do yours at the end?
If that works out, what I had proposed to Joe was that I could just do it in our next meeting, because it's 15 minutes, and so I didn't know if that was going to interfere with just trying to wrap up the meeting. So I'm happy to do that. It's already done, and we can forward that to another meeting. So that's up to y'all.
I think we can knock out these last little checkup items here and have time to do that. You want to just let's move that to the end, and let's move through this other stuff. We've got there was a moon tree dedication last Friday at 10. Rodney, do you want to provide any information additional to that about the moon tree dedication?
I was not there. Is there anyone here that went to that dedication?
I did.
How was it? What happened?
It was terrific. I met the public information officer's photographer, and she was taking pictures of the tree. And I'd say there was about 25 people there, maybe more. And I can't remember the main speaker's name. She's a student and an employee at the university, and I do not remember her name. And she was kind of the catalyst for the saving of the tree, according to what she said. And it was terrific. It was a nice event. And the plaque
Is
looked.
that the Ford person? Which I wonder if they're related to the reporter Wayne Ford.
Maybe that was her. Yeah, I think that was her. Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to send a picture of the tree to a couple astronauts I know who are the twins. But the other thing what occurred to me on the way there, I don't have an elevator pitch, and I wondered if that's you, Joe, or if it's Sean. It's probably not Rodney because I think it's a council vision, not a county vision. Just who would have that, like a kind of an FAQ, FAQs or things that we would. A person from the community made a comment to me. I didn't have a badge, a name thing or anything. I just said I was with a new member of the tree council, and she said, "I don't like what you're doing to Clayton Street." And I said, "Oh, that's actually not the tree council. We're a strategic recommending group for policy and action. We don't actually make those decisions." And that's all I knew to say to her to get us out from under that burden with the public information person right there next to me. But so is there an FAQ or a cheat sheet or a soundbite, a one pager, not the mission, but something much more, like that? Maybe that's Sean from the past, or Joe, or the promotion committee, maybe. I don't know.
Probably most in line with our mission statement, kind of go into,
it's pretty broad. Yeah.
Do a lot, we do outreach and awareness and, just basically a liaison to the, mayor and commission to educate the Athens public about the benefits of trees and advocate for.
There's no sheet produced that it put in more like quick hit.
We have been talking about getting a brochure together. We have some old brochures that have our old logo that would be an actual cheat sheet for you. But I could direct you to the website, which has that information, and you could also direct anybody else to the website, or we have pretty good descriptions of.
Yeah, I've seen.
Mission statement is on there.
Yeah, and that's a good place to look around. Also, if you get any more comments about Clayton Street, there's a page on the ACC website about the street.
I've seen everything you've mentioned, but I just didn't know if there was an elevator pitch for the county itself. Okay, thanks. Thank you.
And I think Clayton Street's going to come out.
Oh no, I told you there's more trees being planted that we're taking down.
That's right.
It's a
so pushed back. I mean, they're so behind schedule. Yeah.
And I try to tap into that raw emotion and make people more aware. It's like just that one space, see how you feel. Like imagine that all over town. Like so the council, we're looking out for all that.
I guess my question is about new members. Is there a familiarization packet or something? I've been to the website and spent much time there, and it's kind of the mission statement's fine, but it's a mission statement. It's not an elevator pitch on what we do, but that's cool. We can maybe Mary and I can talk about it offline at some point.
I do have materials. It's a new member binder packet, and I believe there is a vision statement in there, or at least an old vision statement. I will go ahead and set up a Dropbox folder that I can share with the tree council members, and these materials will be available for everybody.
That's what I was looking for. Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
I would say, Arnie, it took me a year of asking really what I felt were really stupid questions over and over and over about what, like, trees for tomorrow versus the Carl Grove. Yeah, I mean the Carl Jordan Grove, and what we were doing on the Firefly. And it's a steep learning curve, and the way things have changed over the years. But I'm appreciating this feedback, because I think as we work on the website, we'll take that into consideration, because I know there are different arms of this.
Thank you. Thanks. In the spirit of time compression for Joe, I don't want to drag it out any further. Thanks. I'm kind of aware, self-conscious about that. Thank you. Thanks.
And if anybody has suggestions on ways to make that more accessible or clearer on the website, I'm happy to add things.
All right. Yeah, feel free to send your comments to Jesse. Is that allowed? Can we email Jesse with suggestions
Please send suggestions.
and copy the county on all your correspondence? Okay, let's see here.
Please send suggestions only in work group format.
Yes. Ernie, thank you for your comments. That's very helpful. Okay, let's go ahead and give it to Sean. He's got some stuff with the new member interview work group. Sean, I'll let you have the floor.
You got it. Thanks, Joe. This is a check-in with the CTC members who are expiring to confirm their status. And I'm looking here, Rodney, I have the most recent one, the most recent roster I have is from May. And the folks that are expiring on the 31st of this year includes myself. Joseph Bates, of course, is not with us anymore. He was going to be one. Mary Attaway, you're expiring as well. And Lee, you are as well. And my goal was to, check in to see if everybody's still on board through this calendar year. Mary, Lee, I'm down. How about you guys? Yeah. Sounds great. Okay. Am I missing somebody else? Ronnie, do you have your roster?
Yeah, I think you're correct, Sean. The only person whose position needs to be filled next year is Joe Bates's position.
Right. Got it. Okay. Now there was one person. There was one person that didn't get hired this last time. I think his name was Abel. Be a quick and easy arrangement, I guess, to reach out to him and see if he'd want to be on board, I guess. Would we need to re-interview him? Okay.
We would not need to re-interview him, but it would need to go out publicly and applications would need to be gathered for a specific period of time. And then the other people who may apply during that time would need to be interviewed.
Right. Okay. Got it. Okay. So I can loop back around and go through those steps.
Essentially, it needs to be posted publicly. We would need to initiate an announcement through the Public Information Office and then set a deadline.
Got it. Okay.
Would he be allowed to fill the unexpired term or is this for when the term is ended and then he'd start a new term?
Good question, Mary.
Technically, he could fill the unexpired term. However, you're looking at 2 months to get it on the agenda, if not more. I mean, if you want to push for that, we can. That's a possibility, I guess. But then technically his term would expire and then we would need to find someone else. So it's a little tricky in that way. Find someone else or have him renew. I guess he could renew his membership. That could work. So yes, we could get him in sooner. We would just need to, post it. We'd need to advertise it, let the public information make an announcement, have an end date, see if anyone else applies, They do interview them and then send the request to the mayor and commission. Realistically, you're looking at probably September, October, maybe later before they get appointed. It could be the first of the year anyway. I'm not really sure, but that would be the process.
Okay, so Rodney, I'll loop back around with you to confirm that process. Honestly, I can't remember if it's me initiating that or what. So I'll do that later. But that's all I have.
I think the tree council would probably want to make a motion to do all that. So be ready with the motion.
Got it. That's in like right now. Got it.
Now or next month.
I make a motion. So the motion, I guess, would be to fill the vacancy. Is that right? I make a motion to fill the vacancy of Joseph Bates. Anyone second?
I second it.
All in favor?
I'll second it.
Great. All right. Excellent. That's all I have for this this committee work group.
Let's see. I don't think we have fills out. Trees for Tomorrow didn't have anything. Grants fundraising. Did y'all have anything this time around?
Rodney, Phil, and I went to a site that's near Timothy Road and looked at the GDOT criteria, and I think that would fit. They have the Roadside Enhancement and Beautification Council. However, I think the deadline was May 15th. I couldn't get any further into the government website for that, but that's something we need to look at because I really think it would be a good fit for that site. And the other one was Synovus coming up, and I was just wondering, do we have any in any of the opportunity zones? Do we have sites that need trees? Their grant application period was open July 1st through September for about 3 months.
We did that visit down on the south side of town to kind of look around for potential sites.
I think we would have a tie-in through services that help low to moderate income communities and just citing some of the studies showing energy cost reduction from planting of trees. I mean, that would be kind of the link. Yeah, it was July 1st through September 15th. So just something to keep in mind.
Edith, can you send me a copy of that grant application? Do you or is it online? Can I access it somewhere to just look over?
I'll send you the link.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else from the grants and fundraising group? Okay, let's move on to Landmark and Champion Trees. Sean, anything there? Hey, Sean, you still there? I think we lost Sean. Let's see, he's also the Larry Morris one. Let's see here. Okay, let's skip over his for now. Only other agendas I have here are, let's see, policy committee. Mary Songster, you had a few little things here, I think. she
Yeah,
sent.
nothing big. So still working on crafting policy language. I've had a meeting with 2 different commissioners talking about mostly planning language and just getting feedback or ideas, and just slowly crafting. Rodney Lee and I had some interesting information they've been sending to me, and starting to increase the language from not just parking lot trees, which I've been obsessed with, to including talking about like private spaces, creating like adjacent green maps so that everything can link up ultimately, and how do we craft language that encourages that. And so that's what we've been talking about. And then the other thing, the budget money versus grant donation, that's not really, it's more talking about like, for the first time, policy would be asking for money from the mayor and commission, but not even for us, not for the tree council, but as an advocate for other areas like in the community, and how that's different than like writing a grant or like finding that money. And the budget, the city doesn't do zero-based budgeting, but every dollar spent. And so we can't just tell them we're underfunded. They don't open up the door and give us more money. We have to show them that, where it could come from, because they're not going to just like take it from housing or take it from, other social services. So we have to show them the value, that we need to shift the value so that we get some. And that's what I've been working on. And then,
That's awesome.
yeah, and that's it. And then the only other little thing was in our last meeting, at the very last thing, and we'll talk about it more next week, I'm sure. Rodney had said, we were just talking about a bunch of things, but he said that, like, we didn't have an adopt a tree program. And for me, I, always thinking along the lines of promotions and fundraising, like, and thinking about private input. I don't know that we need to resurrect any kind of adopt a tree program. It seems to be a slippery slide when we get to specific trees in the community. But if we graft or concept of like adopting a green space, like Kingswood green space adoption. And so the Kingswood neighborhood adopts the Larry planting and helps maintain. So if we think about crafting a green space adoption, that might be good. I mean, I don't know, it'd be like sort of like tweaking a tree adoption program to suit our current needs more. That's it for us in policy. Unless
Very cool. Exciting stuff. I like that. Well, yeah, I think we just have one committee left here. Yeah, Holly, that's fine. We can. I apologize, we didn't get to yours today. I was actually really looking forward to that. So we'll definitely make room for that next month. Definitely look forward to hearing that. Education committee. Edith, you had 2 items on there.
Well, everyone get your calendars out. We have a save the date. October 30th is the date that's been decided. And because of that, the reason that came to be is Athens Alive was taking place on the alternate date. And Randy Smith said they have a huge turnout for that. So they're not scheduling anything else that day. Holly, you did mention it'd be a little more challenging because the leaves may start to fall. But that looks like the date that we've got. There were a few details to iron out with the liability release forms. And I just had one question for Pam, about doing donations for the registration. Is there a minimum amount that is required for credit cards?
Well, we don't, they can do credit card donations through PayPal, but we don't have a separate way to do credit card donations at this point yet.
Okay. Do you think that'll be set up by October?
I hope so.
Okay.
I'll work on it.
And with PayPal, is there a minimum requirement?
I don't know. I don't think there is, but
There's no minimum
I haven't,
requirement. You have
I
to have
haven't
a
worked with
PayPal.
them in detail, so.
You have to have a PayPal account in order to pay for it if you don't have the separate credit card acceptance. So if you don't have a PayPal account, you can't pay through PayPal. But we can set it up, right, where you can accept a credit card. It's just a process you guys have to get together. Is that?
Yeah,
That
I'm
is one
trying to
of the
set up our
reasons.
Square account so we can take credit card payments on Square.
That is one of the reasons why I push to meet in person, is because Pam and I need to sync up the website and to be able to accept payments through our website with a credit card. And that's unfortunately one of those things that's really difficult to do when we're not in the same room with each other.
Right. I have it on my list to get the Square thing up and running because we used to use that to take payments at the tree fair. And so I think we could probably set it up to do that for donations online too, but I need to check it.
Okay.
But for that, we just typed in the credit card numbers and I think that worked.
So would it be okay to say if there's not a minimum amount, you know, $5 donation suggested?
Yeah.
I think it's good
I
to
think
get,
that's fine.
yeah, yeah. We can talk more about that later.
Or you could, I mean, if you could say minimum $5 donation requested. If people want to give more, I hate to discourage them.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that's pretty much it for education.
Okay. Well, great. That sounds great. We're looking forward to that. Sounds awesome.
And we'll need volunteers.
Okay.
Okay.
Everybody keep that in mind then. Yeah. So I know we talked about a lot today. You know, I think really, I'll just leave it that, you know, I don't want anybody to feel like the tree council is so much work that it's not even worth doing. You know, I think, you know, we lost Joseph and, you know, I'd never met him before. I met him on the council and was just really impressed with him. And so I feel really kind of bad that we lost him because of a workload issue. You know, I'll be the first to admit as well. I'm feeling quite overwhelmed with some of this. So that's kind of where some of this is coming from too. So I don't know what the solution is quite yet, but I appreciate everybody's input in on this. And you know, I don't want the president position to be avoided because there's a tremendous amount of personal growth that comes from this position. You know, I'm grateful to serve as president. I don't want to discourage people with so much workload that it's discouraging. So I'll just leave it at that. You know, I think we can all come up with a good collective solution together. So yeah, I appreciate everybody coming, and committee chairs, please get me your agendas for next week as soon as possible. And Rodney and I will compile those for next week. I guess we'll need those at the very latest, probably Thursday close of business. So I can compile that. But yeah, feel free to reach out. Yeah, Rodney, go ahead. Yeah.
Just whenever you're ready to end the meeting, just would you please make a motion to adjourn?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep. So yeah, I appreciate everybody's hard work. I know it is a lot of work, so thank y'all very much. And I look forward to seeing your agendas for next week. And yeah, I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you.
See you next week.